The NBA has seen its share of triumphs and heartbreaks, but some losses have cut deeper than most, not just for teammates and family, but for fans around the world. From tragic accidents to unexpected health collapses, these are 5 of the most devastating deaths in NBA history.
New video shows Kobe Bryant's doomed helicopter just minutes from disaster. You can see the chopper disappear into the clouds.
The morning of January 26, 2020, felt ordinary quiet skies over Los Angeles, a soft winter haze hanging over the hills, another Sunday in the city of stars. But within hours, that calm would shatter in a way no one could have imagined. Shortly before 9 a.m., Kobe Bryant boarded a chartered Sikorsky S-76 at John Wayne Airport in Orange County. With him were his 13-year-old daughter, Gianna Bryant, 6 family friends, and the pilot. They were heading to a girls' basketball tournament at the Mamba Sports Academy in Thousand Oaks, a trip Bryant had made countless times to avoid Southern California traffic. Flying by helicopter had become routine for him during his Lakers years, a way to preserve time with family. It was supposed to be simple, quick, efficient. But that morning, heavy fog blanketed parts of Southern California. Low clouds clung to the hills near Calabasas. Other law enforcement helicopters in the area were grounded due to poor visibility. Air traffic control audio later revealed the pilot requesting special clearance to navigate through the thick cloud layer. For several minutes, the helicopter circled, waiting for permission to proceed. When it finally continued, it climbed sharply, attempting to rise above the fog. Inside the clouds, visibility dropped to near zero. Investigators would later determine that the helicopter likely entered a condition known as spatial disorientation, when a pilot loses visual reference and can no longer accurately perceive the aircraft's position or movement. In those final seconds, the helicopter descended rapidly. At 9:45 a.m., it slammed into a hillside at high speed. The impact was catastrophic. There were no survivors. Authorities would later confirm all 9 people on board were killed instantly. The hillside burned. Debris scattered across the terrain. First responders hiked through difficult ground and heavy fog to reach the crash site. Yet, before officials could make formal statements, the news broke online. A report from TMZ spread like wildfire. Phones buzzed across the country. At first, many believed it had to be a mistake, another internet hoax, a cruel rumor. But it wasn't. As confirmation followed, disbelief turned into collective grief. At NBA arenas that afternoon, games were underway. Players learned the news in real time. Some left the court in tears. Coaches struggled to speak. Commentators fell silent on live broadcasts. Moments of silence were held spontaneously across the league. LeBron James, who had passed Bryant on the NBA's all-time scoring list just the night before, later spoke of being shattered. Michael Jordan delivered an emotional memorial speech weeks later, calling Bryant a little brother. Outside the Staples Center, now Crypto.com arena, thousands gathered in shock. Jerseys bearing numbers 8 and 24 covered the pavement. Candles flickered through the night. Handwritten messages, sneakers, flowers, and basketballs formed a sea of tribute. Bryant's career had already become legend. A 5-time NBA champion with the Los Angeles Lakers, an 18-time All-Star, a 2-time Finals MVP, the embodiment of the Mamba mentality, a philosophy of relentless discipline and obsession with improvement. In 2018, he had even won an Academy Award for his animated short film, Dear Basketball, proving his ambition stretched far beyond the court. He had retired in 2016 with a 60-point farewell performance, a storybook ending that felt almost cinematic. But what made the tragedy even more devastating was Gianna. Gigi had inherited her father's intensity, the footwork, the competitive glare, the deep love of the game. Bryant had openly championed women's basketball, frequently attending WNBA games and advocating for its growth. Many believed Gianna could have become a transformative figure in the sport. That future, the practices, the championships, the milestones, vanished in a single moment. The grief was global. Murals appeared overnight in cities across the world, from Manila to Milan, from downtown Los Angeles to small towns thousands of miles away. Athletes across every sport paid tribute. The NBA postponed games. At the 2020 All-Star Game in Chicago, Teams honored Bryant and Gianna by wearing their numbers, 24 and 2, and adopting a special format to memorialize them. Weeks later, a public memorial at the arena drew thousands. Stories were shared not only about Kobe the competitor, but Kobe the father, coaching youth teams, studying film with his daughters, planning a second chapter centered around mentorship and storytelling. In the years that followed, investigations by the National Transportation Safety Board concluded that the crash was caused by the pilot's decision to continue flying into deteriorating weather conditions, leading to spatial disorientation. The tragedy sparked renewed conversations about helicopter safety regulations and weather minimums. Yet for millions, the technical findings did little to ease the emotional weight of that day.
Yo, there she goes. Come on, let's see it. I know it's in here.
June 17th, 1986. The champagne from banner number 16 had barely dried. The Boston Celtics were still champions, still towering over the league with a roster built around brilliance and grit. And then, as if the basketball gods were piling on, Boston secured the second overall pick in the 1986 NBA draft. When they selected Len Bias out of the University of Maryland, it felt almost unfair. Bias wasn't just good, he was explosive. At 6'8", with a sculpted frame and breathtaking athleticism, he attacked the rim with violence and grace. His mid-range jumper was smooth. His first step was lethal. Coaches and scouts whispered that he was the only college player physically gifted enough to truly challenge the rising superstar in Chicago, Michael Jordan. Boston had just added youth to genius. The present and the future now wore green, or so it seemed. 2 days later, Bias returned to campus in College Park. The celebrations were loud, electric, almost cinematic. Friends gathered in his dorm room. Laughter echoed down the hallways. The NBA contract was coming. A shoe deal had reportedly been agreed upon. He was about to join a locker room with Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, and Robert Parrish. Championships didn't just feel possible, they felt inevitable. In the early morning hours of June 19th, the mood shifted. Bias had consumed cocaine, reportedly multiple times that night. Shortly after 6 a.m., he suddenly collapsed. Witnesses described violent convulsions, confusion, someone screaming his name, a desperate scramble to call 911. Paramedics arrived quickly. They attempted resuscitation. They fought to stabilize him, but his heart had gone into a fatal arrhythmia. The powerful body that had seemed indestructible on the basketball court could not withstand the chemical shock. He was pronounced dead at 22 years old, 48 hours after being drafted. He never wore a Celtics jersey in an NBA game, never stepped onto the parquet floor at the old Boston Garden, never heard the roar of a home crowd chanting his name. The shockwaves were immediate. This wasn't a veteran in decline. This wasn't a cautionary tale years removed from stardom. This was the future, vibrant, smiling on draft night, holding up a green cap. In Boston, disbelief turned into grief. Players who had prepared to mentor the next great forward instead attended memorial services. Coaches struggled to explain the unexplainable. Fans stared at front-page headlines in silence. Across the country, parents felt something deeper than sports sorrow. The image of a young, successful athlete at the absolute peak of promise, dying from cocaine, stunned the nation, and the ripple effects extended far beyond basketball. Bias's death became a rallying cry in America's escalating war on drugs. Lawmakers repeatedly invoked his name in speeches and hearings. Within months, Congress passed sweeping legislation known as the Anti-Drug Abuse Act of 1986, which introduced harsh mandatory minimum sentencing policies that would reshape the U.S. criminal justice system for decades. A single night in a dorm room became part of national policy. But in NBA history, the ache remains more personal. What if? What if Len Bias had suited up beside Larry Bird, easing the physical burden on an aging Celtics core? What if his athleticism had shifted the balance of power in the late 1980s? What if the Celtics-Lakers rivalry had gained a new explosive chapter? What if he had become the rival the league needed to push Michael Jordan even further? Instead, Boston's dynasty began to fade. Injuries mounted. Bird's back deteriorated. The window closed faster than anyone expected. And somewhere in that timeline there's an alternate version of the NBA where Len Bias is soaring above the rim, rewriting history. But that version never came to be. His story remains frozen on draft night, smiling, confident, holding limitless potential in his hands. In NBA history, few losses feel as chilling as Len Bias, because it wasn't just a career that ended. It was an era that never had the chance to begin.
All time.
Yo, there she goes. Come on, let's see it. I know it's in here.
This past Wednesday, in which the Hornets captain was killed, just an absolutely tragic and as senseless as...
January 12th, 2000. It was just another practice day for the Charlotte Hornets. The season was rolling forward. Playoff hopes were realistic. The locker room energy was normal. Music playing, sneakers squeaking, teammates joking after drills, routine. And then, in a matter of seconds, everything fractured. After finishing practice at the old Charlotte Coliseum, Bobby Phills left the arena in his black Porsche 911. Nearby was his teammate and close friend, David Wesley, driving his own vehicle. What began as a drive home quickly turned reckless. According to investigators and later court testimony, the two players were speeding along a busy stretch of Interstate 77 in Charlotte. Witnesses described the cars accelerating aggressively, at times exceeding 100 miles per hour. Whether it was competitive instinct, adrenaline, or a moment of poor judgment, the situation escalated fast. Then came the split second that could never be undone. Phills lost control of his Porsche. The car swerved across multiple lanes of traffic, struck another vehicle, and then slammed broadside into a concrete median barrier before crashing into a light pole. The impact was catastrophic. Emergency responders arrived within minutes, but the force of the crash had been too severe. Bobby Phills was pronounced dead at the scene. He was 30 years old. News traveled back to the arena almost immediately. Teammates who had just shared the court with him minutes earlier were suddenly gathered and told their friend, their brother, was gone. Practice plans were replaced with disbelief. Silence swallowed the locker room. Phills wasn't a headline superstar. He didn't chase scoring titles or endorsement deals, but inside NBA circles his reputation was rock solid. A defensive specialist, a player who volunteered to guard the opponent's best scorer every single night. He had taken on assignments against stars like Michael Jordan and never backed down. He was respected for his toughness, his professionalism, and his voice in the locker room. Coaches trusted him. Younger players leaned on him. Teammates described him as steady, the kind of presence that keeps a team grounded during an 82-game grind. The shock reverberated across the league. Games were played under a cloud of grief. Around the NBA, players spoke openly about how quickly life can change. For the Hornets, the season continued, but it no longer felt the same. Every defensive stop, every timeout huddle carried an invisible absence. Later that year, the Hornets permanently retired Phil's number 13 jersey. It rose into the rafters, not because of gaudy statistics, but because of impact, leadership, character, art. The tragedy also forced difficult conversations about responsibility. David Wesley later acknowledged the racing behavior and expressed deep remorse, a painful truth that added complexity to an already devastating loss. Legal proceedings followed, and the incident became a sobering reminder of how quickly competitive instincts can spill beyond the court.
For Drazen Petrovic, the Nets star was killed on Monday evening in a car accident in Germany.
June 7th, 1993. The NBA Finals were only days away. In the United States, cameras were focused on superstars, storylines, and championship pressure. But thousands of miles away, on a rain-soaked stretch of the Autobahn in Germany, basketball was about to lose one of its brightest global pioneers. Drazen Petrovic was no longer just a European sensation by 1993. He was an NBA star in full bloom. Before arriving in America, he had already dominated European competition with clubs like Real Madrid Baloncesto and led the Yugoslav national team to international glory. His scoring outbursts were legendary, his confidence unmistakable. But the NBA had once doubted players from Europe, labeling them soft, untested, or too reliant on finesse. Petrovic took that personally. After early struggles with limited minutes on the Portland Trail Blazers, he forced his way into a larger role, following a trade to the New Jersey Nets. By the 1992-93 season, he wasn't just contributing, he was thriving. He averaged 22.3 points per game, shot nearly 52% from the field, over 44% from three. He attacked defenders without hesitation, talked back to opponents, demanded the ball in clutch moments. He played with visible fire, a blend of European skill and street-level competitiveness that reshaped perceptions. He wasn't surviving in the NBA, he was conquering it. That summer, after helping Croatia compete in international qualifiers, continuing to carry his young nation's pride following its independence, Petrovic chose to travel back to Germany by car rather than fly with teammates. He was a passenger in a Volkswagen Golf traveling along the Autobahn near Denkendorf. Heavy rain poured down. The highway was slick. Visibility dropped. Traffic ahead slowed suddenly due to congestion. The car in front braked. In a split second, disaster unfolded. The vehicle carrying Petrovic collided at high speed with a truck that had stopped on the roadway. The impact was devastating. Reports later indicated that Petrovic was not wearing a seatbelt. He was killed instantly. He was 28 years old. News first broke in Europe, then surged across American sports networks. Inside NBA circles, disbelief took hold. Teammates were stunned. Coaches were speechless. Fans struggled to comprehend how a player in his absolute prime, just entering what should have been his peak years, could be gone overnight. Before Game 1 of the 1993 NBA Finals, the league held a moment of silence. Arenas dimmed, heads bowed. For many international players watching from overseas, that silence carried weight. Petrovic had fought for respect in a league that once dismissed European toughness. He jawed with American stars. He refused to be intimidated. He demanded equal footing and earned it. In Croatia, he became more than an athlete. He was a national symbol during a period of political upheaval and emerging identity. In the NBA, he became proof that international talent could dominate, not just participate. Years later, he was posthumously inducted into the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. His number 3 jersey was retired by the Nets. A museum in Zagreb preserves his memory. Murals, tributes, and annual commemorations continue. The summer of 1993 was supposed to mark the beginning of a new era for the Boston Celtics. Instead, it became one of the darkest chapters in franchise history. On July 27, 1993, Reggie Lewis collapsed during an off-season workout at Brandeis University. Teammates initially thought he might have simply fainted from exhaustion, but when he failed to respond, panic set in. Despite efforts to revive him, Lewis was pronounced dead later that day. He was just 27 years old. The tragedy didn't come out of nowhere. Only months earlier, during Game 1 of the Celtics' first-round playoff series against the Charlotte Hornets in April 1993, Lewis had suddenly collapsed on the court at Boston Garden. In a chilling moment witnessed live by thousands in the arena and many more on television, he lay motionless before being helped off the floor. He returned later in the game and even finished with 17 points, but the image of him falling backward without contact stunned the basketball world. Doctors soon began a series of evaluations. What followed was confusion and controversy. Some specialists diagnosed him with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, a serious and potentially fatal heart condition that has claimed the lives of several young athletes. Other medical experts disagreed, suggesting a less severe cardiac arrhythmia that might be manageable with treatment and monitoring. The conflicting opinions created enormous tension between Lewis, his family, team physicians, and independent cardiologists. Ultimately, Lewis sought clearance from outside specialists and was told he could resume basketball-related activities under certain conditions. He began light workouts that summer, determined to return and lead Boston into a new era. He never got the chance. An autopsy later revealed that Lewis suffered from arrhythmogenic right ventricular cardiomyopathy, ARVC, a condition that can disrupt the heart's electrical signals and trigger sudden cardiac arrest. At the time, screening methods for such disorders were far less advanced than they are today, and awareness around athlete-specific cardiac risks was limited. Lewis had been entering his prime. Drafted 22nd overall in 1987 out of Northeastern University, he steadily developed into one of the league's most reliable two-way wings. By the early 1990s, he was the Celtics' franchise cornerstone. He averaged over 20 points per game in 4 consecutive seasons and earned All-Star honors in 1992. With Larry Bird retired and Boston transitioning into a new phase, many believed Lewis was the bridge between the dynasty years and the next generation of championship contention. His death sent shockwaves across the NBA. Players struggled to process how someone so young and seemingly healthy could be gone overnight. Celtics teammates were devastated. The organization retired his number 35 jersey later that season, ensuring his legacy would remain part of the franchise's identity. Beyond the emotional impact, Lewis's passing intensified league-wide discussions about cardiac screening and medical protocols for athletes. The NBA and other professional sports organizations began re-evaluating pre-participation physicals, electrocardiogram testing, and monitoring standards. While tragedies have still occurred in sports, awareness and preventive measures have improved significantly since the early 1990s. More than 3 decades later, Reggie Lewis remains one of basketball's great what-if stories. He wasn't just a talented scorer with a smooth mid-range game and defensive versatility. He was widely respected for his quiet leadership, professionalism, and humility. In a city that had already experienced the emotional farewell of the Bird era, Lewis represented hope, stability, the future. Instead, his name is forever tied to a heartbreaking reminder of how fragile even elite athletic careers can be.